Another common algorithm is to find the index of where an element is in a list. And we will do that. There are different examples, but when you're searching through a list, maybe you want your user to enter a name and you want to see if that name is in the list. And if it's in the list, we can say it's at position whatever. But if it's not in the list, we can flag that with a -1 because there isn't an index -1 in a list. So in this example, I have a list called colors with these different colors, and the value I'll search for is red. So it's at index 0, 1, 2, right? It's at index 2. But if I were searching for purple, purple's not in the list, so I could say that that's at index -1, and then I can handle that with an if-else somewhere else in my program. And the different variables that we will need are the index variable, I, and then another variable to hold the location of the thing we're looking for. And I'll call that index loc for index location. And notice that I'm initializing it to -1. I'm going to assume that it's not in the list. So I'm going to set it to -1, and then if I find the element in the list, I'll update this to be the index of where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and start my loop. So while I is less than the length of colors, and then I want to do a check. So if value is equal to the element in colors sub I want to update index loc. Okay, so I'll set index loc is I. So I'm updating the location to position I. And then I will go ahead. Now a common bug is that students think that they need to have an else with this if. And they might set index loc back to -1. Well, that's not going to work because once I find red, it's at position 2, but then it'll go and it'll try pink, and I don't want to set it back to -1, right? I want to keep it at 2. So make sure you aren't doing an if-else when you are looking for something. And then I have an if-else down here, and it says if the index location is not -1, to print that it's at index whatever, else print that it's not in the list. So let me go ahead and run that, and I'll say red is at index 2. So let's change this to purple, and it says purple is not in the list, and I'll change that to blue, and then we'll hand trace this before we run it. So I have my colors list, and the indexes are 0, 1, 2, and 3. And I have a value variable, and that's set to blue. And I is set to 0. And the index location, I'll set that to -1. So while I is less than 4, because that's the length of the list, there are 4 colors in the list, and I'll check if value is the same as at what's position I. So I is 0. So if blue is equal to orange, that's false, so don't do anything but increment I. And then go back up. 1 is still less than 4. And it'll say if blue is equal to color sub 1, which is blue. Oh, that's true. They both match. So update index location to I. So index location is now 1. It's the same thing that's in I, and then increment I. And then go back up. Is 2 less than 4? Yes. Is the value, which is blue, is that equal to index sub 2? So is that equal to red? No. So don't do anything, but increment I. Go back up, and then is blue equal to index sub or color sub I, which is pink, right? So it's the third, I is 3, so what's in element position 3? Pink. So is blue equal to pink? No. So don't do anything, but increment I, and then go back up, and is 4 less than 4? No. So hop out of the loop, And then it'll say if index is equal or not equal to -1. Well, index is not equal to -1, it's equal to 1. And so it'll print blue is at index and then 1. So when I run this, blue is at index 1.